Well, Harvard's president, Claudine Gay, coming under fire from one of her own as she remains in her post despite multiple allegations of plagiarism. In a Wall Street Journal op-ed, a history professor there at Harvard likens Harvard to a medieval dictatorship for ignoring academic honesty, saying politicization and lower standards are jeopardizing the school's standing as a great research institution. Here to react, Manhattan Institute Director of Constitutional Studies, Ilya Shapiro. Ilya, thanks for being here. It is amazing, considering what she faced for her reaction to what happened in Israel, that now these plagiarism allegations are out there, and you've got professors saying this is not what an institution like this is supposed to look like.
Yeah, her disastrous performance at the congressional hearing was really the tip of the iceberg. And the water has sort of drained out and revealed, to mix metaphors, the rot in that iceberg, in Harvard, in elite higher ed, and in higher education more generally, because it's really what we're seeing is the illiberal takeover of our institutions of higher learning, such that traditional core missions of research and open inquiry are subverted in the interest of identity politics and postmodern theories of oppressor-oppressed classes, privilege hierarchies, and all the rest. Claudine Gay's plagiarism is terrible, and she was already a middling academic who was clearly elevated purely because she wanted to impose and did, as dean, all of these DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion programs. But by no means is she the only thing wrong with Harvard or elite or more broadly higher ed institutions.
Sure. I mean, she's just become a symbol of it. Part of that op-ed from that history professor at Harvard said, academic honesty seems to matter less than having the right progressive values. And that's why the word medieval is tied to it, because universities used to demand conformity. And it seems we've gone back to that.
Well, it's even, some people might say that this is just the latest in decades of conservative complaints about liberals taking over the faculty lounge, going back to the Berkeley hippies in the 60s. But this is something different. This is the bureaucratization of higher ed, especially those DEI offices, which ironically subvert intellectual diversity, oppose equal opportunity, and exclude, as you said, and as this op-ed said, those who diverge from ultra radical progressive orthodoxy. Another Harvard professor, Steven Pinker, wrote an op-ed earlier this month in the Boston Globe talking about how to reform higher ed, maybe if it's even possible, you have to do certain things like promote freedom of speech and open inquiry, shut down these DEI offices, which are the tail that wags the dog. Don't discriminate based on ideology, and differentiate between the freedom of speech and disrupting classes or harassing people or engaging in violent protests and things like this.
Problem is, shutting down the DEI offices in a place like Harvard means shutting down the entire college, because that runs the entire system right now. It just does.
Well, Pete, Pete, you and I went to Princeton like more than 20 years ago, and Princeton is facing similar sorts of issues. But there's been a growth in the bureaucracy in those 20 years, and it's not just Claudine Gay or other faculty that are skewing things. All of this money is being spent on these offices that are not teaching, to the point where at many of these schools, there's long been more bureaucrats, non-teaching staff than faculty, and in some places, more non-teaching staff than students. 100 years ago at these Ivy League schools, students would come with their own personal butlers. I don't know whether these educrats now are going to be personal butlers for these students, but there's a lot of things that need to be changed so universities can return to their mission of seeking truth, doing research. It's really gone away from all of that, and as you said, as this op-ed said, they become schools of activism rather than of education.
No doubt. Ilya Shapiro, thank you very much. Have a great New Year.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.